Hello, BookTube. Well, here we are. This is the final bookshelf tour of the Penguin Classic basement, this bottom shelf of my Penguin wall where I have stuffed and double stacked all of my Penguin mass market paperbacks, the little paperbacks that is a format that I just don't comfortably read in anymore. I will if I have to, if it's a new romance novel, a new Star Trek novel, something like that, or a classic science fiction novel that's never going to be reprinted in a larger format. But if it's Tacitus or Dickens, I prefer a larger paperback, something a little bit more substantial in the hand and easier on the eye. So as a result, these mass markets have just sort of disappeared down here, and we've been touring through them, we've been digging through them. It's been a lot of fun for me. It's apparently been a lot of fun for you, even though it's just me droning on about literature. But it's also been helpful for me to see how many doubles I have, how much stuff I can just weed out and get rid of, even down here. And now we're at the end. I think this video ought to finish it. So we'll start off with these three. Perfect example of why I need to go through here and just make sure that I winnow out the stuff that's not necessary. This is three different Beowulfs. This one is lovely as a design. I don't know if these are all by the same person either. No, this is translated by Michael Alexander. This is translated by David Wright. And this is Earliest English Poems, which I think has his translation of Beowulf. Oh, no. Okay. All right. So this is Michael Alexander doing everything from Old English that isn't Beowulf. And this is him doing Beowulf. And then this is an entirely different person. This is David Wright. So that's a lot of Old English. That's all in one spot, and that isn't particularly necessary because the editorial information, the critical apparatus, and also the translations are done more exhaustively and better in a one-volume Old English poems anthology that I have, and in a bunch of other higher profile and more recent editions. I don't know why I would keep one of these, let alone all three. But let's see. Let's move on here. Let's see. This next one's really thin. Oh, okay. All right. This is Shen Fu, 6 Records of a Floating Life. This is translated by Leonard Pratt and Chang Su Hui. And this is well, let's see here. Written in 1809. 6 Records of a Floating Life remains the most frank and moving work to come from that period, and an enduring favorite among Chinese readers today. And I think if this is here, probably we're hitting a little vein of Japanese and Chinese literature. Yeah, okay, all right. This is an anthology edited by the great Donald Keene. This is anthology of Japanese literature. Lovely, lovely thing. I don't know that I have a Penguin trade, anything like this, so I probably wouldn't get rid of this anytime soon. And Donald Keene, of course, is great to read on Japanese literature. This is just an anthology extending probably... this anthology spans the period from ancient times to the 19th century. It's probably been decades since I paid any attention to it or used it in any way. Oh, okay, all right. And this is Arthur Cooper's translation of Tu Fu and Li Po. I believe that Li Po has his name is now rendered in English in a completely different way. I don't, off the top of my head, remember what that way is. Isn't anything like Li Po. So if you come to it cold and you don't know that change has been done in academia and in general publishing, you would think it was two different people. I love Li Po, even in translation. I think I don't know how to read him in the original. I know him only from translation, and even in translation, he is so immensely likable, so immensely wise and wonderful and funny that I'll read him no matter what the current fashioning of his name is. The thing that's interesting about him for me right now, is that the writer Ha Jin, whose fiction has never done anything for me at all. I think that Ha Jin's fiction is hideously overpraised. Again, in translation, the new book from that author is a biography of Li Po with his new name, with the new rendition of his name, a work of nonfiction. So I'm eagerly on board for that. But this is I've been through this many times, but I mean, it's what I've mentioned on this channel before. My apprehension with translations very much applies even when I don't know that I have grounds for that apprehension. If I feel that there's somebody in the room, if I read something like these things, a lot of these things come off as very, very similar to English ditties, and I know they couldn't be that way in the original. So if I feel that the translator is in the room, if I feel like I'm missing something, then I tend to think that it's the translator's fault, and that applies whether I know the home language or not. So I don't know. I maybe there'll be a big new version of this, much more critical apparatus, much more of contextualizing to let you know what the originals are like. That would be great. I haven't seen it in Penguin. It probably exists already in some other publisher. Okay. All right. This is translated. Oh God. All right. This is an anthology called The Golden Casket, 2 millennia of the Chinese novella. So representing, what have we got here? Sketches from 46 stories written in the Chinese literary language. And talk about the thing that I was just mentioning. This is translated by Christopher Levinson from the German version by Bauer and Franke. So who knows how many continents removed from the originals you are here, let alone decades or centuries. So this, I would read the introduction, but I don't think I've ever read the contents. What is next here? Okay, this is Shenfu again, so that's good. That's good to know. There's a double there. Then this is translated by Liu Zhongeng. This is 6 yuan plays from, let's see here, the music dramas in this volume, of a kind possibly witnessed by Marco Polo, represent the earliest form of Chinese play and were written under the Yuan dynasty established by Kublai Khan in 1280, after the Mongol conquest of China. And here you get just 6 of those plays. They're translated not into English, they're translated into Gilbert and Sullivan. Deeply suspect. So I would love, and I read the introduction to this volume, but I would love to get a clearer sense that I was reading the plays themselves than this volume I could ever possibly give me. What is next here? Okay, this is Basho. This is The Narrow Road to the Deep North and Other Travel Sketches, a famous author who I think is served well here. The translation is by Nobuyuki Yuasa. And if I remember, I've read this particular volume a lot, and if I remember, I did not feel the intrusion of a translator. I felt much more at home with this, which I attribute to the translator. But that's definitely the vein we're hitting here. See, this is the Poems of Wang Wei in a very little volume. This is translated by G.W. Robinson. But where is the big book on Wang Wei, maybe Wang Wei and Li Pu and Tofu? Put them all together. Where is that? Where is that big volume? New from Norton or Harvard or something like that, with new translations that don't read like translations, new translations that don't read like English, and full of scholarly apparatus to let you know what you're reading. I don't. If there is such a volume and you know about it, let me know, because I would love that. As it is, this is just a tiny little thing to put in your pocket. Okay, all right. This is A.C. Graham. This is Poems of the Late Tang Dynasty. Chinese poetry achieved an unsurpassed greatness in the 8th and 9th century. His most famous poets, from the widely established Tu Fu to Li Shangyin, one of the first Chinese poets to make love his central theme, explore their language to its utmost limits. And here you have just a slim volume of those poems. So I wonder if this is all going to be Japanese and Chinese literature. Oh no! Oh God! No! All right! We have an abrupt change to another copy of The War with Hannibal. It's by Livy. This is the Aubrey de Selincourt translation of the books of the Roman historian Livy dealing with Hannibal's invasion of Italy. And here's another translation. This is Henry Bettinson's translation of Rome and the Mediterranean. Another big collection of the books of Livy. Livy didn't finish his great book, his great lifelong masterpiece. It was unfinished, and we don't have all of even the stuff that he did finish. but what we have would make a healthy sized book. You don't need to do Livy in multiple little books. You could do one big book. I guess Penguin just decides there's no great interest in such a thing. Maybe they might be right. Oh God! All right. This is another copy of The War with Hannibal. Like Ariosto, Orlando Furioso, and a couple of other things, the Betty Radis translation of Praise of Folly by Erasmus. There was a time when if I saw a mass market of these particular Penguin volumes that I love and that I love to recommend, I would get it. I probably got this for 50 cents somewhere. If there was a time where I would see these mass markets and I would grab them up. And I don't know which happened first, that I decided not to keep doing that and just building up a library of doubles for readers I'm never going to meet, or I stopped seeing the mass markets. I don't know if you've noticed, but in used bookstores, even really busy ones with high turnover, like the Brattle Bookshop, mass market paperbacks as resale items, especially older ones, are becoming less and less common. I think that's just natural as you wear through the stock, as you wear through what people have to give away at all. But I can't remember the last time I saw a mass market copy of The War with Hannibal, even if I wanted to buy it for somebody. I clearly don't need to buy extra copies. Let's see here. Oh, okay. This is David Wright's Anthology of English Romantic Verse, which will have all the usual suspects, Byron and Keats and Shelley and whatnot, and plus a bunch of second-raters. This has all the classic stuff, and also lots of minor people. And again, now the ideal anthology like this for me would be an anthology entirely of the minor runs, of the C-list and B-list romantic poets, because I don't want to be encountering Keats or Shelley or Blake or Byron in an anthology like this. I want them on their own. I want the whole book of their work. So an anthology like this, I would mainly go to it for the introduction, and then for the poets with whose work I'm not all that familiar. Let's see what's next here. Okay, same thing. Exact same thing. The metaphysical poets. This is edited and introduced by Helen Gardner, the mighty Helen Gardner. I remember the introduction, and it's really good. But again, quite a few of these poets are people that I love dearly and want in their own volume. I don't want to read them in an anthology with a bunch of other people. So here we have John Milton, Thomas Carew, William Devenant, Henry Vaughan, Andrew Marvell, George Herbert, Sir Walter Raleigh, Robert Southwell, John Donne, and Richard Crashaw. And of those, probably 4 or 5 I would want on their own. I have volumes of them on their own. I would never go to an anthology for them. And what have we got next here? Oh my. Oh goodness gracious. Okay, this is Michael Grant's translation of the Annals of Imperial Rome by Tacitus. This is a much beat up copy that I have reinforced a million times. I wonder how long I've had this. Probably 35 years. 1986. Okay, so that's a long time. And I love Tacitus so much. I love him so much. And he is one of the Roman writers whose Latin makes it possible to translate him. Michael Grant, for instance, does a perfect job of making him. His Latin is more transparent. It's more translatable than someone like Livy. And so I don't tend to object to his translators. But once again, that's a broken record, but it's the last time you have to go through this. Once again, where is the big 1-volume Tacitus? Where is that? Where is the big, definitively annotated new translation of a 1-volume of Tacitus with the Annals of Imperial Rome, the Agricola and the Tacitus? Where is the Germania and all? Where is the body of work of Tacitus? You could fit it in one big volume, and it deserves it. And you could give it a great translation. Oxford World Classics does new works, new translations of all of Tacitus. I think Penguin does as well, or newly adapted versions of these older translations. But this is an author who's so incredibly foundational to, for instance, the American founding fathers, but to a whole bunch of other people too. Tacitus gets written about. He gets new reprints every once in a while, every once in a great while, every few decades he gets a new edition. I'm a little bit biased, and I think that's not enough attention. I think he deserves more. Plus, if you haven't read Tacitus, he is one of those ancient authors who, even in English language translation, you will really get. You will get him right away. He is an immediate author. Not just gripping in terms of storytelling, but massively powerful in terms of his narrative points. He is a pundit as well as a historian. Mixes the two of them perfectly. It's just an incredible reading experience. Just incredible. This is we're getting towards the end here. Oh, okay. This is the Robert Graves translation of Suetonius' Lives of the 12 Caesars, with schmutz all over the cover. Graves very much took the Aubrey de Selincourt approach to his translation and sort of gave us a lad's Suetonius. he became very defensive about how word by word, line by line accurate it was, but it very much reads like Robert Graves. Fortunately, though, in the original, so does Suetonius. So this is the lives of the Caesars. This is all the big names that people who only have a passing familiarity with Roman history think that these are the only Caesars. And we go from Julius Caesar all the way to the year of the four emperors. And some of them are really good. Suetonius might be a gossip monger. He might have a penchant for colorful stories that aren't true and that he kind of sort of knows aren't true. But he had access to incredible wealths of primary documents that we don't have anymore. And he's fascinating to read, just endlessly interesting to read. When people ask me, where should I start with the classics? Because I'm intimidated and I find them boring or something, or both of those things, something like that. Suetonius is one of the first people that I recommend, him and Procopius, The Secret History of Procopius. Because why not? Why not make the acquaintance of these people at their most human? I would, in terms of recommending things that they're most human, recommend Martial and Juvenal and my beloved Horace, but poetry is intimidating on its own right. No, better to give somebody prose and something with lots of discrete small chapters. That hooks them. That gets them in and shows them that what we're talking about here is people. These authors were authors writing about people. And the huge bricolage of academia and intimidation is beside the point. These things can, as you've probably been able to tell from these videos, these things can be a source of unmitigated, glowing joy. And then these last three they aren't mass markets. I don't know what they're doing down here. What is this first one? It's bright orange. Oh, okay. Okay, this is the Lydia Davis translation of Madame Bovary. Some sort of movie cover. Yeah, it's got movie credits in the tiny print that they use. I can't even read it. I can't even read the tiny microprint at the bottom here to tell you about the movie. Maybe it's on the inside. No. Well, I guess there was a movie, now a major motion picture of Madame Bovary. I missed it completely. I'll have to see if it's on Netflix. And this is just the Lydia Davis translation of the book. I don't know what it's doing down here. It should be, just because it's a movie adaptation doesn't mean it can't go on the shelf. It's still a Penguin classic. And then what is this next one here? Okay, this is also now a major motion picture. Maybe that's why I put them down here. This is Bel Ami by Guy de Maupassant. Isn't that lovely? Look at that cover. That's no ordinary movie cover. We already know who that is, right? This is a portrait of M. Fitzgerald from 1889. And Guy de Maupassant is incredible. He's amazing, even in English. This is a translation by Douglas Parme. And this must have been a movie, too. If there was a major motion picture of Bel Ami, I certainly missed it. Penguin probably just sent it to me, and I just put it down here. I don't know why. And what is this next one? Oh, look at that. Oh, wow. This is a Penguin classic, and a lovely designed one, too. This should not be down here. This is by Ahmet Hamdi Tanpınar. This is the Lost Time Regulation Institute. The Time Regulation Institute. This is a great old Turkish novel from the early part of the 20th century, all about bureaucracy. And it has one of these great designed penguin dust jackets. The penguin classic dust jackets are rare. This one has the normal penguin cover with a wraparound cover on top of it, and a pub sheet from before I read pub sheets to you. This is from this is translated from the Turkish by Maureen Freely and Alexander Daw, and it came out in 2013 from Penguin Classics. And does not belong down here. This is the Penguin Classic basement. Why are these trade paperbacks that I might use down here? So this is going to have to be repatriated. All three of these are. And quite a few of these mass markets as well, because I don't need, much as it might break my heart to admit it, I don't need 5 copies of the Annals of Tacitus. So that's it. That is the Penguin Classic basement. We are now done. This shelf is entirely full. Or empty rather. I'm going to go through all these stacks here and see what I want, what I don't want, clean everything up, and then put everything back. And that raises the question, since I'd forgotten the incredible response that bookshelf tours get. You just love them. And I am your humble servant. So now the question, I guess I already know the answer, but I'll put it anyway. Obviously, we're going to continue with the bookshelf tour. Should we just continue with Penguin? Should we just continue doing Penguin? I have to think. I mean, every one of these videos, I'm wheezing on about these, not particularly this video, because the literature of ancient Japan and China is not my bailiwick, but for most of these, I was wheezing on about these old authors from, you know, your school days, and then in the comments, in the description box, leaving tons and tons of links to long pieces of me wheezing on about them in writing. If that is not tedious to you, then I guess we could just continue. If you want to do that, we just continue with the Penguin Classics. It's fine by me, one way or another. If you want me to do that, or if you want me to break it up, I'll move to some other bookshelf, because I haven't done a bookshelf tour of my ordinary collection in probably a year and a half, and a lot of those books have changed. A lot of them have moved around, and there are a lot of new people on your end of the camera. There are a lot of new people who didn't maybe see those videos. So one way or another, let me know. But that's it for the Penguin Classic basement. We're done down here in puppy territory. So I'll wrap this up for now, but I'll see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.